begin, let's talk about Libya's, flood-ravaged Derna. In grisly hunt for thousands that are still missing, ladies and gentlemen. Emergency teams on Friday kept up their search for the thousands still posted as missing from the tsunami-seized flash flood that swept the Libyan port city of Derna, killing at least 4,000 people. The enormous surge of water burst two upstream dams late on Sunday and reduced Derna to an apocalyptic wasteland where the entire city and the entire city blocks and the untold numbers of people were washed into the Mediterranean. The spate of destruction on your screens. Now, it's important to note that calling the situation catastrophic, the United Nations launched an appeal for more than $71 million to respond to the most urgent needs of 250,000 people targeted out of the 884,000 people estimated to be in need. Various reports that are coming out of Derna say that central neighborhoods on either side of the river, which normally dries up at this time of the year, looked as if a steamroller had passed right through, uprooting trees and buildings and hurling vehicles onto the port's breakwaters. What we're also learning is that within seconds, the water level suddenly rose, as many of the eyewitnesses have recounted. Even as people started getting injured, many of them have lost their lives. That toll now nearly 4,000. One eyewitness said that he was swept away with his mother in the late night ordeal before they both managed to scramble onto an empty building downstream. People who are recounting the late night ordeal say that the water was rising until they got to the 4th floor, and the water was up to the 2nd floor as well. Testimonies coming out from hospital beds, each sadder than the other. They say they could hear screams from the windows, and they saw cars and bodies being carried away by the water. It lasted for about an hour or an hour and a half, but for them, it felt like eternity. An eternity full of hell. Take a look at this, a 7-meter wave, hundreds of body bags that were now in line in Derna's mud-caked streets, even as you're looking at satellite visuals, awaiting mass burials, and the families as traumatized and grieving residents searching for mangled buildings for missing loved ones, and the bulldozers clearing streets full of debris and mountains of sand. Look at that before-after of the satellite image. Take a look at it once again, but you can see the spate of the cars, the mud, the mountains of sand, and the bulldozers still trying to clear streets full of debris and mountains of sand. In one of the shattered homes, a rescue team pumped out the water to reveal a woman's lifeless arms still clutching her dead child. The disaster certainly has been violent and brutal. According to the head of the Libya delegation of the International Committee of the Red Cross, which had a team in Derna, when the flood waters hit, the situation suddenly became violent and brutal. A wave of 7 meters, that's 23 feet, a wave of 7 meters high wiped out buildings and washed infrastructure into the sea. Now family members are missing. Dead bodies are washing back up on the shore, and homes have been left destroyed. Now, in the Chiha neighborhood, which was spared by the wall of water that devastated lower-lying districts, estimates that at least a tenth of the city's population of 1 lakh were killed. Many have lost their friends, many their loved ones. They're all buried, either buried under the mud or got swept out to the sea by the floodwaters. Now, the floods were caused by hurricane-strength storm Daniel, compounded by the poor infrastructure in Libya, which was plunged into turmoil after a NATO-backed uprising toppled and killed longtime dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Libya is now divided between two rival authorities, the UN-backed internationally recognized government in Tripoli and an administration based in the disaster-hit east. But there's a sea corridor that one has to look at as well. The UN Met Organization chief, Petteri Talas, says that many deaths could have been avoided if early warning and emergency management systems had functioned properly in the war-scarred country. With better coordination, they could have issued the warnings and the emergency management forces would have been able to carry out the evacuation of the people, and they could have avoided most of the human casualties, is what Talas noted. Access to Derna remains severely hampered, as roads and bridges have been destroyed and power and phone lines have been cut in the wide areas, where at least 30,000 people are now homeless. The United Nations said that with the collapse of most of the roads, the municipality of Derna is urging relevant authorities to establish a sea corridor for emergency relief and evacuations. Climate experts have linked the disaster to the impacts of a heating planet combined with Libya's decaying infrastructure. Storm Daniel gathered strength during an unusually hot summer and earlier lashed Turkey, Bulgaria and Greece, flooding vast areas and killing at least 27 people. Storm Daniel is yet another lethal reminder of the catastrophic impact that a changing climate can have on our world.